The MSSR, the colony of New Hope, sat on the edge of human-controlled space like a jewel in the darkness. 3 million souls called it home, humans and Kaleri living side by side, farming the rich purple fields and building a future together. The Kalari were a peaceful species, small and gentle, with large eyes that showed every emotion. They had come to humanity asking for help after their own world died, and humans had welcomed them with open arms. Captain James Ross walked through the market square that morning, smiling at the children playing near the fountain. Human and Kalari kids chased each other, laughing in both languages. His wife Maria waved from her shop across the street. Life was good here, simple, peaceful. Then the sky turned red. The Draxan warships appeared without warning, massive and dark against the blue morning sky. They were reptilian warriors, known throughout the galaxy for their cruelty and strength. But New Hope had no military bases, no weapons platforms. It was a farming colony. Everyone knew this. The first blast hit the central district. James watched in horror as Maria's shop vanished in a ball of fire. He tried to run, but the second wave of attacks came faster. Buildings exploded around him. People screamed. The Kalari tried to flee, their small bodies no match for falling debris. The bombardment lasted 6 hours. When it ended, New Hope was gone. Just smoke and ash and silence. 3 days later, the emergency signal reached Earth. Admiral John Blake stood in the command center beneath Geneva, watching the report with cold eyes. Around him, representatives from every nation sat in shocked silence. The screens showed images from the few satellites that survived. New Hope was a crater. 3 million people, gone. The Draxan Empire claims it was a military target, said Ambassador Lisa Park, her voice shaking with rage. They say we were hiding weapons there. Lies, Blake said quietly. Everyone knows the truth. They attacked because they could. Because they think we're weak. The Galactic Council's response came next. A formal complaint. Economic sanctions that meant nothing. Words. Just words. They won't help us, said President David Cole, leaning forward in his chair. The Council is afraid of the Draxan Empire. They'll write reports and hold meetings while more humans die. Blake looked at the faces around the table. He saw the same thing in every pair of eyes. Grief turning to rage. Humanity had played by the rules for 200 years since joining the galactic community. They had been peaceful, diplomatic, patient. And what had it earned them? Ashes. Recommendation, Admiral? The President asked. Blake stood up slowly. We stop waiting for permission, sir. We stop pretending diplomacy will work with monsters. We activate Protocol Omega. Several representatives gasped. Protocol Omega was humanity's secret, the military force they had built in hidden shipyards across the solar system. Not for conquest. Not for empire. But for this exact moment. For the day when being peaceful wasn't enough. The Draxan Empire thinks we're soft, Blake continued, his voice hard as steel. They think because we value life, we won't fight for it. They think our compassion makes us weak. He looked at each person in turn. Let's teach them the truth. Let's show them what happens when you massacre humanity's children. The vote was unanimous. In shipyards hidden in the asteroid belt, behind Jupiter's moons, and in the depths of the Kuiper Belt, thousands of warships began to wake up. Engineers who had waited for decades rushed to their stations. Soldiers who trained in secret prepared their weapons. Humanity was going to war. And this time, they would not stop until justice was served. Asterisk the AWAKNINZ the Draxan home fleet gathered in celebration above their capital world. War leader Krax stood on the bridge of his flagship, drinking fermented blood wine while his officers roared with laughter. On the main screen, images of New Hope's destruction played on repeat. Look how easy it was, Krax bellowed, raising his glass. The humans didn't even fight back. 3 million of them, and not one shot fired at us. His second in command, Commander Vorth, nodded with a sharp-toothed grin. The other species warned us that humans were dangerous. They said humanity defeated the Hive Wars, but I think they've gone soft. 200 years of peace has made them weak. They cry too much, another officer added. Did you see their ambassador at the council meeting? Tears streaming down her face, begging for justice. The bridge crew erupted in mocking laughter. Krax slammed his glass down. Let them cry. Let the whole galaxy see what happens to species who expand into territory we want. The Kalari should have known better than to hide behind human protection. But on the edge of their sensor range, something was moving, 3 light years away. Admiral Blake's fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. 2,000 warships, built in secret over 50 years, now hung in the darkness like silent predators. They were smaller than Draxon vessels, but faster, covered in black armor that absorbed sensor beams. All ships report ready. Sir, reported Captain Emma Wright from the tactical station. Blake studied the holographic map showing Draxon military outposts scattered across this sector. Begin Phase 1. Target their supply stations first. No warnings. No mercy. The human fleet split into strike groups, each heading to a different target. The first outpost never knew what hit them. One moment, Draxon soldiers were loading ammunition onto transport ships. The next, human missiles tore through their shields like paper. The station exploded in silence, debris scattering across space. Within 6 hours, 15 Draxon outposts simply vanished. War leader Krax received the reports with disbelief. Impossible. Humans don't have military fleets. Our intelligence said our intelligence was wrong. Vorth interrupted, his voice tight with fear. Sir, we're receiving distress calls from every border outpost. They're all under attack. The humans are everywhere. On the screen, combat footage showed human fighters moving in perfect coordination, their pilots executing maneuvers that should have been impossible. Draxon ships were built for raw power and frontal assault. Human ships danced around them, striking weak points with surgical precision. Send the 4th Fleet to intercept. Krax ordered. The 4th Fleet met the humans near the mining colony of Drakkar Prime. It should have been an easy victory 500 heavy. Draxon warships against 200 human vessels. But the battle lasted only 40 minutes, and when it ended, the 4th Fleet was gone. Human tactics were unlike anything the Draxon had faced. They used small attack groups to draw out Draxon ships, then surrounded them with overwhelming firepower. They hacked into Draxon communications, filling their channels with the screams from New Hope, psychological warfare. The Draxon warriors, so confident before, began to hesitate. They fight like demons, one Draxon survivor reported. They don't stop. They don't retreat. They just keep coming. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. The council leader, an ancient being named Elder Tom, projected his image across space to reach Admiral Blake directly. Admiral, you must cease this aggression immediately, Tom said, his multiple eyes blinking in distress. The Draxon Empire has agreed to attend peace talks. We can resolve this through... No, Blake interrupted, his voice cold. I beg your pardon? I said no, Elder Tom. The time for talks ended when the Draxon murdered 3 million civilians. We gave the Council 3 days to act. You did nothing but write reports. But this will destabilize the entire sector. You're violating. We're enforcing justice, Blake said. Something the Council has forgotten how to do. Tell the Draxon this. Surrender unconditionally, face trial for war crimes, or we will dismantle their empire, piece by piece. Elder Tom's image flickered with shock. The galaxy will not accept such barbarism from humanity. Blake leaned closer to the camera. Then the galaxy should have protected our colony. You wanted us to be peaceful, diplomatic, civilized. We were, and our children died for it. Now you'll see what happens when humanity stops being polite. He cut the transmission. Across Draxan space, the attacks continued. Human marines landed on occupied worlds, freeing enslaved populations. Human hackers crashed Draxan banking systems. Human ships blockaded trade routes. It wasn't just war. It was systematic dismantling. And in the Draxan capital, war leader Krax finally understood the truth. Humanity's compassion hadn't been weakness. It had been choice. A choice they were no longer making. The humans were coming, and nothing would stop them. Asterisk. The Arisi Ko9G, the Draxan homeworld of Draxus Prime, had never been invaded. For 3,000 years, it stood as the heart of their empire, protected by orbital defense platforms and the largest fleet in the sector. War leader Krax looked at those defenses now and felt something he had never experienced before: fear. "How many ships do we have left?" he asked quietly. Commander Vorth checked the reports, his claws trembling. "Maybe 800, sir. The humans have destroyed everything else. Our colonies are liberated, our outposts are rubble, and our supply lines are gone." In just 2 months, humanity had torn through the Draxan Empire like fire through dry grass. They fought with a precision and fury that terrified every species watching. The humans didn't just attack military targets. They systematically freed every slave, every prisoner, every conquered species the Draxan had oppressed for generations. "We need to negotiate," said High Command Leader Vex, the supreme ruler of the Draxan Empire. His scarred face showed his age now, the pride gone from his eyes. "Contact the humans. Offer them ... anything." Krax wanted to argue, to say they should fight to the last warrior. But he had seen the combat reports. Human soldiers fought with technology and tactics that made Draxan warriors look primitive. Worse, they fought with purpose. Every human ship carried images of New Hope's victims. Every soldier wore patches honoring the dead. The communication went out. "The Draxan Empire requests immediate peace negotiations." Admiral Blake received the message aboard his flagship as the human armada assembled at the edge of the Draxus system. 2,000 warships, now joined by another 1,000 that had finished construction. The largest human military force ever gathered. "Their terms, sir?" asked Captain Wright. Blake read the Draxan offer and deleted it. "Send them our terms. Complete and unconditional surrender. All military leaders to be arrested and face trial for war crimes. All enslaved species to be freed immediately. All weapons of planetary destruction to be dismantled. They have 12 hours to comply. And if they refuse?" Blake looked at the blue-green planet ahead, where billions of Draxan civilians lived. "Then we proceed with the invasion. But make sure all ships have updated targeting military and government facilities only. We're not murderers. We're not them." 8 hours later, High Command Leader Vex sent his response: "We accept your terms." The fall of Draxus Prime was strange and silent. Human Marines landed in the capital city not as conquerors, but as police. They arrested war leader Krax as he sat in his command center, staring at the wall. Commander Vorth tried to resist and was stunned by a pulse weapon. Within a day, every Draxan military leader was in custody. The citizens watched in confusion. They had been told humans were weak prey animals. Instead, disciplined human soldiers stood guard on every corner, their weapons ready but not threatening civilians. Medical teams helped injured Draxan. Engineers began repairing damaged infrastructure. "We don't want your world," Admiral Blake announced in a broadcast to the planet. "We want justice." The trial was held aboard the Galactic Council Station, but this time the Council had no choice but to watch as humanity took charge. The evidence was overwhelming: images from New Hope, testimony from survivors, intercepted Draxan communications where they laughed about the massacre. Elder Tom presided over the proceedings, his ancient face grave. War leader Krax, you are charged with genocide, crimes against sentient life, and violations of every galactic law. How do you plead? Krax stood in chains, his warrior pride finally broken. Guilty, he whispered. The trials lasted 3 weeks. Every Draxan officer involved in the New Hope massacre was convicted. Some received life imprisonment. The worst, including Krax, were sentenced to mind-wipe, their consciousness erased, their bodies given over to serve the families they had destroyed. But humanity's judgment didn't end there. The Galactic Council failed us. Blake addressed the assembled representatives from every species. When we needed protection, you offered paperwork. When we begged for justice, you suggested patience. Never again. He gestured, and images appeared: human shipyards expanding, new defense platforms being built around vulnerable colony worlds. Humanity is establishing the protection fleet. Any species that faces genocide or extinction-level attack can call on us. We will respond, not with meetings or sanctions, with action. Elder Tom shifted uncomfortably. Admiral Blake, the Council cannot allow one species to. The Council will accept it. Blake interrupted, his voice iron. Because you know we're right. Peace requires strength. Diplomacy requires the will to enforce justice. We tried your way. Our children died. Now we do it our way. Across the chamber, representatives from smaller species, the ones who had lived in fear of larger empires, began to nod. One by one, they stood in support. The galaxy had changed. 6 months later, a memorial stood on the ruins of New Hope. 3 million names carved in black stone, one for every life lost. Admiral Blake stood there with the survivors, human and Kaleri alike. We will never forget, he said simply. Behind him, human warships patrolled the sector. Protectors now, not conquerors. The lesson had been learned by every species watching. Humanity's compassion was real, but so was their strength. Threaten the innocent, and you would face humanity's wrath. And humanity's wrath, once unleashed, was absolute. The end asterisk.